Okie dokie, artichokes. It is windy outside and I am in my shed and got lots of work to do in backyard ceramics day 26. I'm going to do some glazing. My pieces that I was drying yesterday are not quite dry. I think this one's pretty dry, but this one still has some moisture on the bottom. So I'm not quite ready to fire those yet. Not sure if I can fire them at the same time, if they'll both fit in the kiln. Might take some creative arranging. I played all that Tetris for all those years for a reason. So I'm going to glaze the pieces I fired yesterday, which I have not shown you yet. Those are the robot pieces that I don't want to show you until I've assembled them and have determined that it's going to work, because I'm nervous about it. So I'm going to glaze those, fire those today. I also have some ideas for some tools that I want to make. Not sure if I'll get to that today. If not, then tomorrow. And all right, let's have at it. I finished glazing all of them. I got all my little robot pieces in there. Yeah, still kind of nervous to even show you what they look like, because I don't know how this is going to work. Now, this is a glaze fire, so I can't let any of the two pieces touch. Couldn't stack them, because then they would fuse together, or risk fusing together. Also had to make sure that the bottoms weren't glazed. And normally I would stilt these, because the bottom of the kiln is the coolest part of the kiln. And if I could stilt them, it would just raise them up a little bit into the hotter area of the kiln. But because I have so many pieces, really I just don't have enough stilts, and I didn't think I'd have space for all the pieces. So you see how I'm set them back from the front, because the front does not have any heating elements, but there is heating elements in the back. So the front bottom of the kiln is pretty much the coolest part of the kiln. So I have them set back a little bit, and I might just have to fire them a little bit longer, just so that heat, really builds up on the bottom, because heat rises, so obviously the top part of the kiln is kind of being wasted right now. But just the radiant heat, when it builds up inside, will reach the bottom eventually. So it may take a little bit longer to fire. So fingers crossed. Close this up and trying to plug this in one-handed. Hey, contact. All right, and it is about 1:45, and we'll see how that goes. One of the strangest things I've noticed is with the baking soda glaze, every time I open it, it does that. And I even squeeze some air out and let it sit, and it'll build pressure back up, which means one of two things is happening. Either there's something acidic in there that's causing the baking soda to release carbon dioxide, or there's some bacteria or yeast in there that's alive and releasing carbon dioxide, and it's actually fermenting in there. If it's fermenting in there, then that's not really a big issue, because any kind of little microorganisms or whatever would burn out in the kiln anyway, and whatever they're breaking down would just be other bacteria from the clay that was mixed in there. If it's something acidic that's breaking down the baking soda, that might affect the actual chemical composition of the glaze. In which case, the longer it goes through this process, the less baking soda will be in the glaze, the more that glaze is going to change. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with that glaze, but you know, it's interesting to find out, I guess. So as it goes on, we'll see if the glaze actually changes in characteristics in any way. Should be fun. Should be interesting. It's been about 2.5 hours, and I see some definite shine on some pieces in there. So I'm going to let it cool slowly so we don't get a lot of crazing and cracking on the glaze there. And I'll see you again after that has had a chance to cool off. Now that I've unloaded the kiln and assembled this little guy, I'm a little bit more confident. You can see how, I wish I could hold this one. See how he can be posed in all sorts of different ways. And put him sitting. Just need to turn that. Yeah, so he can sit, he can stand. Yeah. I don't know if I can get that little thing in the slot there. It's a little bit, maybe I need to break it in a little bit. Or use thinner elastic this time. I think that the elastic's actually getting stuck in the slots. The borax glaze turned out really cool on this. Real grimy and textured. I like it. So that was the one I was a little bit anxious to show off because I wasn't sure if it was going to work. And even now, it doesn't work perfect. I think that, you know, we can still do some improvement on it. Maybe use. I actually found 2 different thicknesses of the elastic, and I used the thicker one on this because I needed thicker knots to keep it from going back through the holes. You can trim that end off, but I'm thinking I might actually have done better with the thinner one on this one. So anyway, this one also is not the main feature here because I've got this guy over here. So this is the one that obviously I put a little bit more effort into, and it'll have even more points of articulation with hands and elbows and all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to assembling that, but I'm out of time for the day. It's pretty late in the evening. So I'll work on assembling that one tomorrow. And I also didn't get around to making the tools that I wanted to make. Remember I said I had some tools. So tomorrow I will finish assembly. I'm going to take this guy with me. See what my daughters think of it. Tomorrow I will finish the assembly of that one. I will probably also tomorrow fire the soap dish and sponge holder. I don't remember what it was called for a minute. And I still have those tools that I want to make. So lots to do still, but the week is young. So we will be back tomorrow for Backyard Ceramics. Jackie. I love you too. Yes, you're a good boy. Yes, you're a very good boy. All right. Bye, kiddos.